If you ever walk past Graymore Hollow and you hear voices coming from beneath your feet, do not listen, do not stop, do not answer, because those whispers are not calling for help. They're calling for you. Graymore Hollow is not just a graveyard. It's a boundary between the world we know and something we're not meant to understand. Locals won't go near it, not after sunset, not after the incident. In the past 200 years, 43 people have vanished without a trace. Their last known location, always the same, just beyond the rusted gate, beneath the twisted ash tree that never dies. You won't find their names on headstones. You won't find their bodies, either. But if you stand still, very still, you might hear them, crying, laughing, calling. In the next few minutes, you'll hear sound that no living soul is meant to hear. And if you think that's the worst part, you're not ready for what lies beneath. Long before it was called Graymore Hollow, the land was known by another name, one lost to time, a name never written, only whispered. The earliest records date back to 1742, when the Church of St. Isidore purchased a land to bury plague victims. But something was wrong from the start. The priests noticed at first, no birds ever flew overhead, no crickets at night, not even worms in the soil. They called it the Mute Hill. Between 1742 and 1767, over 800 bodies were buried in the hollow, but the church never recorded a single exhumation. Not one moved, not one investigated. Because every priest assigned to the cemetery either quit or disappeared. There were stories. Father Elias Brand, last seen walking into the chapel just before dawn. The altar boy said he was humming a lullaby and crying. When the church opened the doors the next day, his robes were found folded neatly on the pulpit, but the priest was gone. In 1803, Graymore Hollow was declared ritually contaminated by the archdiocese, but it was too late. The graves had already changed. Caretakers began reporting voices, not during the night, but during daylight. The ground was speaking back. Locals started to avoid the cemetery, and those who didn't last long. Some went mad, some vanished, and some began burying fake coffins so their loved ones wouldn't rest there. By 1905, the graveyard was closed to public. A steel fence was built, a warning sign posted. But that didn't stop them. The ones who wanted to know what was under the ground, what caused the silence, what pulled people inward. And what they found is where descent truly begins. In 1922, a group of amateur occultists entered Graymore Hollow under cover of darkness. They called themselves the Watchers of the Gate, but they weren't there to speak to the dead. They were trying to open something. Their leader, Elias Crane, a former seminary student turned spiritualist, believed the cemetery was built on a convergence point, a place where the silence between worlds thin like skin stretched over bone. On October 17, 1922, Crane led his group in what he called a listening ritual. No candles, no chants, just silence. Each member was to lie on the soil for exactly 6 minutes and listen. Only 3 of the 7 ever walked back out. All 3 were institutionalized within a week. One cut out her own tongue. Another stopped sleeping completely and eventually died of exhaustion. And Elias Crane, he was never seen again. The ritual site was sealed, or so they claimed. But in 1964, children playing in the woods uncovered a burial circle. Stones arranged in spirals, bones mixed with candle wax. And one thing nobody could explain, a mirror shattered and buried face down. The cemetery was silent again for decades, until a documentary crew arrived in 1997. They were filming a series on haunted places, the usual stuff, but Graymore Hollow wasn't usual. They made it one day into filming. Then they left. All the footage was corrupted. Every frame. Except one. That fragment was later analyzed. No shadows were cast by the figure. And the chapel door? It had been locked for 37 years. But what matters most is what one of the crew said before leaving. A single sentence caught on their last recording. That's what Graymore Hollow is now known for. The silence, the listening. Some say the land beneath the cemetery is not solid, that it breathes, that it watches, that it remembers. The vanishing ritual was just the beginning. What came next was the arrival of the Mirror Woman. Do not stop. Do not answer. Because those whispers are not calling for help. They're calling for you. Graymore Hollow is not just a graveyard. It's a boundary between the world we know and something we're not meant to understand. Locals won't go near it. Not after sunset. Not after the incident. In the past 200 years, 43 people have vanished without a trace. Their last known location? Always the same, just beyond the rusted gate, beneath the twisted ash tree that never dies. You won't find their names on headstones. You won't find their bodies, either. But if you stand still, very still, you might hear them, crying, laughing, calling. In the next few minutes, you'll hear sounds that no living soul is meant to hear. And if you think that's the worst part, you're not ready for what lies beneath. They call her the Mirror Woman, but no one agrees on her face. Some say she appears as a grieving widow in black, others as a child with hollow eyes. But all who claim to have seen her remember the same thing, a hand reaching from the other side of a mirror. The Mirror Woman first appeared in 1951 when a young girl named Clara Danvers went missing during a funeral at Graymore Hollow. Her family searched the ground for hours, only to find her shoes, placed neatly at the base of a mausoleum mirror. But that mirror wasn't supposed to be there. No one remembered bringing it, and the cemetery had no record of its installation. The groundskeeper smashed it on sight. That night, he hanged himself in the bell tower. 3 days later, Clara was found standing in her bedroom, unharmed, untouched, but different. She never spoke again, and whenever she passed a mirror, she would turn her head away or whisper, "Don't look in. She's still there." In the years that followed, 9 more disappearances were reported near the same mausoleum, and each time, a mirror was found, not brought in, not placed, but grown. Locals began whispering of a spirit that did not live in the graveyard, but under it, not buried, but sealed. And mirrors, they said, were as windows. Then came the footage. A paranormal investigator named Tom Renner entered the hollow alone with a handheld camcorder in 1989. He walked into the chapel basement, down a passage supposedly sealed since 1906. He never walked back out, but his camera did. When authorities recovered the tape, it ended with 14 minutes of black screen. No sound, no movement. Then suddenly, mirrors are meant to reflect. But what happens when they start to remember? That's what Dr. Emery Lang, a physicist turned paranormal researcher, believed. In 2003, he began studying mirror anomalies at Graymore Hollow after discovering a disturbing pattern. Visitors to the cemetery reported reflections showing people no longer living, events that hadn't happened yet, or, most disturbingly themselves, doing things they hadn't done. Dr. Lang conducted over 150 hours of filming in the hollow. He used specialized infrared lenses and motion sensors placed near gravestones that were rumored to react. And what he captured was never explained. One recording shows a mirror sitting motionless for 6 hours. Then suddenly, it begins to fog from the inside. A face appears, pale, expressionless, and then vanishes backward. Lang's final experiment involved placing 12 mirrors in a circle over the burial point of the vanishing ritual. Each mirror faced inward. He called it the infinite mouth. He believed the mirrors were trying to form a gateway, not into the afterlife, but into something else. Something that listens through glass. Something that speaks only when seen. Lang went missing 3 days later. His home was found empty, except for one thing. Every mirror in his house was gone. The walls were scraped, not just scratched, scraped, as if something had been dragged across them for hours. And in his journal, the last line written was, "They've learned to reflect more than light." To this day, people who visit the hollow bring no phones, no cameras, and no mirrors. Because some believe that once the mirror woman shows you a version of yourself that doesn't exist, that's not a reflection, it's a replacement. There's a part of Greymore Hollow that isn't on any map. Locals call it the throat. It's a depression in the earth, overgrown with black moss. No gravestones, no markers, just sound. Because if you stand there long enough, you will hear them singing. According to local folklore, in the late 1700s, a religious sect known as the Hollow Singers performed a burial ritual unlike anything ever documented. They believed that death should not be silent, that souls must be heard as they descend. When a member died, the sect would gather around the grave and sing them into the soil. But then something changed. Graves stopped singing. The ground began rejecting the dead, and the Hollow Singers started disappearing, one by one. Locals claimed they weren't being buried anymore. They were being swallowed. The final known song was heard by a farmer half a mile away. He reported a sound that wasn't singing, but something trying to imitate it. That night, his livestock were found dead, not mutilated, just hollow. No organs, no blood, just a dry, silent shell. In 2012, a group of paranormal investigators descended into the throat with a shotgun microphone. What they captured was 14 minutes of low, harmonic vibration, and one human voice, distorted and buried under the others, whispering, "We're not dead, we're waiting." Today, no one steps into that pit, because those who do come back different. Some say they start humming in their sleep. Others, they dig. Greymore Hollow is home to a bell tower that hasn't tolled since 1896. At least, that's what everyone believed. But those who live nearby tell a different story, one told in whispers. Every few years, sometimes decades apart, the bell rings at midnight, but no one is ever seen climbing the tower. In 1923, a man named Elias Wren attempted to repair the bell, a seasoned clockmaker and skeptic of ghost stories. He worked alone, determined to silence the superstition. On the night of the repair, neighbors reported hearing not just one bell, but dozens, tolling in cacophony, echoing screams, then silence. Elias was found the next morning, lifeless, with his hands crushed. No explanation, no witnesses. His last diary entry spoke of shadows in the bell, and voices trapped in the iron. Since then, the bell tower has been left alone. But every so often, residents swear they hear it tolling at night. Some say it's a warning, a calling. And those who hear the bells are said to disappear within days. One night in 2007, a group of teenagers dared to climb the tower. They took a single video before their phones went dark. The video ended abruptly, and the teenagers were never seen again. At Greymore Hollow, the fog isn't just weather, it's a veil between worlds. Locals say, when the mist curls over the graves, the dead speak. But not like the quiet whispers of spirits. These voices are loud, desperate, and full of rage. Witnesses report hearing voices calling their names, pleas for help, threats, and warnings they don't understand. One man claimed the fog spoke in his wife's voice, begging him to join her beneath the earth. In 1998, a group of hikers entered the hollow as fog rolled in. They were never seen again. Their last radio transmission was chilling. The voices, they're everywhere. They know our names. We're not alone. Paranormal investigators who entered during thick fog say their equipment malfunctions. Cameras capture shadowy figures. Recorders pick up voices, but when played back, it's only silence. Some believe the fog is a prison, trapping the souls of those who never left. And if you hear your name called from within the mist, beware. Trapped forever. Others believe they are something worse. Watchers from another realm, waiting for something. Those who meet their gaze say a cold dread spreads through their body. A silence so deep it drowns out all thought. One story tells of a man who stumbled into the hollow at dusk. He saw a watcher. The figure didn't move. But the man felt paralyzed. He couldn't turn away, couldn't scream. When he finally broke free, he was never the same, haunted by shadows, and by eyes that followed him even when he was alone. Many believe the Watchers are guardians, protectors of the graveyard's darkest secrets, punishing those who dare to uncover them. And if you look too long, you might just become one of them. Deep within Graymore Hollow lies a secret, forgotten by time, an altar carved from ancient stone, a place where dark rituals once took place. Locals speak of sacrifices made here, blood spilled on the altar, offerings to spirits that demand silence and obedience. Archaeologists found strange markings near the altar, symbols that don't match any known language. Some say they're warnings, others believe they're curses. Those who dared to desecrate the altar reported nightmares, hearing chanting in their sleep, and waking to find strange symbols carved into their skin. In 1974, a man named Caleb was found near the altar, his eyes wide with terror. He refused to speak of what he saw, but his journal told another story. He wrote of figures cloaked in shadow, chanting around the altar, and a voice that promised power at a terrible cost. Caleb vanished the night after his journal was discovered. Only the altar remains, silent, waiting. Graymore Hollow is not just haunted, it is cursed, a darkness that spreads like a shadow, consuming everything in its path. The curse began centuries ago, when a pact was made, a deal sealed with blood and betrayal. No one knows who made it or why, only that those who enter the hollow carry the curse with them. Victims of the curse experience strange phenomena, sudden chills, unexplained injuries, shadows moving on their own, and voices whispering dreadful secrets. Families are torn apart, minds unraveled. Some say the curse feeds on fear, growing stronger with every terrified soul. In 1985, the last known victim disappeared without a trace. Her belongings were found scattered, as if she fled in terror, but she was never seen again. The curse waits, patient, silent, and it's hungry. If you ever find yourself in Graymore Hollow, remember this warning. Do not anger the darkness. Do not break the silence. The final night in Graymore Hollow is unlike any other. The air thickens, the shadows grow longer, and something ancient stirs beneath the earth. Those brave or foolish, enough to stay until dawn, say the hollow reveals its true face, a face carved from fear, sorrow, and rage. On this night, the gates of silence swing wide open. Spirits, watchers, and shadows converge. Voices merge into a blood-curdling chorus, a final call for souls to join the forgotten. No one who has heard it has ever been the same. Witnesses describe the ground trembling, tombstones cracking, figures emerging from a mist, and then a piercing silence. A silence so complete, it feels like the world itself is holding its breath. If you ever hear the hollows call, if you feel the pull of the shadows, run. Do not look back, because the hollow never forgets. The hollow remains, silent, waiting, a place where the past never truly dies. Its echoes ripple through the lives of those who dare to enter, leaving scars unseen and stories never fully told. Some say the spirits are trapped, longing for peace. Others believe they are guardians, bound forever to protect what lies beneath, what lies beyond the gates of silence. That question remains unanswered, and perhaps it should, because some mysteries are better left alone, and some doors left unopened. Thank you for journeying into the depths of Graymore Hollow. If you dared to listen, and if you felt the chill, remember this. The hollow watches, and it never forgets.